What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Everything Paranormal Show, where we are joined with a couple special guests. I'm going to be turning the reins over to Stacy, which you guys are used to co-hosting the show. Guys, we're going to be talking about remote viewing, and again, this is out of my wheelhouse. So I'm just a simple ghost hunter. So I'm going to turn it over to Stacy. What you got for us tonight?
Well, I got a couple of students. I've got Rob and Sarah from Ghost Hunt, Get Haunted with Rob.
Whoa.
Yeah, all right. The pre-show stuff was screwing me up. Jeez. And then we got Sarah with Paranormally Blonde, and as you can see, she's not only blonde but she's also paranormally.
That's
So,
right.
uh, I would like you guys to, talk about what you're about before we get into the whole remote viewing side of things, because your experience and my teaching of remote viewing kind of coincided at some point uh, prior to actually meeting me in person.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, gosh, Get Haunted. We're services, paranormal services, an event company. I'm gonna kick it right over to Sarah because she does such a better job at this. She explains what we're all about more eloquently. But I started it way back in about 2019. Didn't do a whole heck of a lot, but it was mostly making merch and laser engraving services for teams and other companies. But in 2021, I launched it out officially, added some events, went on Sarah's show, Paranormally Blonde, pitched the concept of what I wanted to create with Get Haunted to her, and it resonated. And then a few months later, she was like, "You suck at social media, and I'm taking over." So she did. And then a few months later, but in between, during those few months, she was bringing these amazing ideas to the table. One of them being making sense of your senses, which I think we're going to talk about. So eventually, I was like, you know what, I need you to run this company with me. So she became my business partner, and here we are, about a year later, just starting to kill it. So that's my version of it. But what Get Haunted really represents, Sarah has much better words than I do. So
I kind of love how you're like, so I started Get Haunted and then I was on Sarah's show and then she said, your social media sucks and she took over. Like you make it sound like I'm just going to go to people and be like, I'm taking over your social media. And
we kind of did. I mean,
okay,
am I
but
lying?
there was some, we built a friendship. It wasn't like I just reached out to you out of
Yes.
the blue and was
Well,
like, you
yes.
suck.
That's a whole different magical story. She saved my ass from something I was suffering from after an investigation, or 11 of them at a particular house in Rhode Island, and I thought my life was over. Reached out to her in this for no reason. Didn't even really know her other than having been on her show for um, a few months back. But I reached out and I asked her, "Hey, did I ever tell you this story?" Knowing I don't even know why I asked. I knew I didn't. But there was something in my head that said, reach out to Sarah. And I did. And she doesn't remember parts of this, but there were questions that were asked that tied things together. And she really flipped my entire perspective on what was happening to me, around me, why it was happening, and kind of showed me a perspective of the issues I was having that I never ever thought was possible.
And then I told him his social
And
media
then
sucks.
she took over the company.
That's how that all happened.
She did me a huge favor, probably, and I'm not joking, probably saved my life. Um,
Yeah. So then we began to work together to build out Get Haunted events and services, and it truly is a network of people, any person, individual, group, team, location, equipment creator, anybody who has an interest in paranormal at any level, to join in and just be a part of it. Very exclusive or inclusive, because paranormal could be very exclusive. That was pretty much why Rob wanted to start Get Hunted, because trying to find teams to work with, you get kind of turned away. And Get Haunted, we don't stand for that. Everybody's welcome. And we just sort of build off of that. And our events are created all for you, for the guest. It's a moment to come in with people, our crew, very passionate about paranormal. We all have very different ways of investigating. We have different belief systems. And that's not the focal point, though, of these events. The event is to share our passion with you and to build your passion, or to find your passion, really. And it just, it's a beautiful network of people offering their help, their thoughts, their theories. We've been very blessed, I would say, Rob, in the last year. We've really not had, it's not that there's not drama out there, but within our own network, we have to say we've been really blessed with people that have stayed very focused on what paranormal is about and the journey itself. So we just keep building this thing bigger and bigger every day.
Yeah. And with, a couple thousand people playing along, maybe deleted one post one time in the past year or so. The right people are finding us for the right reasons. And, as Sarah said, it's like, just give everybody a safe space to explore and to share. When I started it, I was like, there are lawyers out there that are into this. There are graphic artists, there are video editors like myself. Why are we not all just kind of working together and helping each other and investigating and building really cool stuff? So that was kind of what got Get Haunted moving. And then Sarah came along and we started building more and more ideas. And that's how Making Sense of Your Senses eventually took shape.
It's a niche. It's a niche that really needed to be filled, because, I'm not an investigator. So what I see on TV is pretty much what everybody else sees on TV.
Yeah.
And the experience of an investigator is completely different.
Yeah.
Knowing Josh and how he does things is, 180 from what they show you on TV. And TV really didn't impress me all that much either. One of the shows that I really hate the most is with Zack Attack, because he does everything wrong. And he's monkey see, monkey do. And people who want to have that experience and learn the paranormal investigative side, they have nowhere to go. They don't know where to start. They start going into abandoned buildings that they don't belong to or shouldn't be even close to because they're condemned. But it's spooky, so we'll go and investigate there. That it's just a lot of mistakes can be had and people get hurt along the way, and you provide an outlet, I think. That
I agree, Stacey. And here's the thing, when Rob pitched it on Paranormally Blonde in December of 2021, the reality is this. It can be intimidating out there. Social media has sort of created a beast here with paranormal and turned it into something that has become more egocentric. And so when you see that out there, and you have people, and it's fine, everybody can have their opinion, but when you're sort of cramming that down people's throats that, you shouldn't be doing this because you don't know what you're doing and we do, the reality is mortality belongs to us all. We all are going to die, and we all want to explore paranormal for different reasons. And you can't, as an investigator, we have to be humbled to understand that we don't know what happens truly when we pass and what could be on the other side. And so I think just offering that space, again, the safe space for somebody that could have a curiosity, even if it's just a curiosity, to come to one of our events, meet people who truly love paranormal, who love it because we just love the exploration. We don't know that we know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. So, we're not out there saying this is how you have to do it. We're saying this is how we've done it. Do you have any thoughts on how you're feeling, what you want to do? And you just give people that to let them go through that door. And let's be honest, with the number of investigators out there, teams and otherwise, if it was all that dangerous, as some of them say, we'd have a lot more issues. And the reality is we don't. It's not what you're trying to sell. So I don't like that paranormal has become a little bit of a religion. And some investigators are trying to sell the fear to control what paranormal is and how it should be run. And the reality is I call bullshit on that. We should be opening this up for everybody to have an opportunity. So Get Haunted is just a nice middle ground of let everybody, if you don't love it, you don't love it. If you love it and you want to explore more, we have different levels of investigations that you can come do with us and learn more skill sets as making sense of your senses. I mean, it should be, it's paranormal for everybody, not just for a few.
Right. And I wanted to step in real quick and just say that it's nice to see when you have para-unity, right? The term's been thrown out there, para-unity, and I've come across people that want to get along, they want to have that community, and I think that's awesome. And as an investigator, like I've got a chance to do a lot of collabs over the years, and it's really nice when you have, I guess, like another professional, somebody that cares about paranormal versus caring about subs and social media over the paranormal. So you can tell the difference when you get that person that you work with, you collab, and it's really cool because no matter how long you've been doing it, you always run into somebody that maybe they do it just a little different, or there's some other cool idea, and you're like, hey, I like that. I never thought of that. I didn't think of that angle to do that. It was like the first time I saw the Estes method or something. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Sensory deprivation, versus the other way we used to do things, Anyways.
So it's a great point. And it is another facet, right? So we're an event company. Part of this company is an event company. There are locations, a lot of locations. And prior to having this, I worked for another event company. So I understand that teams, especially out in the field, don't really love event companies. Why? We get the bigger locations sometimes. We have the insurance required to get them, the capital to secure them. And sometimes they kind of buy up weekends. I get that part. And I understand it. And I feel for smaller teams that, like Two Brothers Extreme Paranormal, they're two brothers, right? They're not going to go to Mid-Orange Correctional Facility in New York and rent it for $1,500 a night. I mean, they may be if they have the cash, but it's kind of crazy. So we do offer that, hey, and they're actually coming this weekend to one of our events. Like, we'll co-host with you. We brought in a team called Silence Paranormal. It's a group of deaf women, and we work with them. And holy shit, I learned so much. Like, I never would have thought to do Estes method with someone doing sign language, and we were getting answers. So, people always ask, I think it might have been a question Sarah asked in 2021 is like, why do you want to share the stage? And the truth is I don't see it as my stage. It's all of our stage, right? So we offer these small teams a chance to come and be part of something cool. Like, some people hate public events. I get it, but we run them in a way that makes, we control it. I'm from Jersey. I can turn that on when I need to. But we keep everybody small groups, and we keep them under control. And we spend pretty much the first half of the night teaching them techniques or learning from them. We break the groups into skill levels whenever we can. So it's not like your typical public ghost hunt. We definitely put a lot of thought and time into it. And we care about everybody's experience. So yeah, we will share with the other teams. We'll promote the other teams. It's never been about us. It's always been about everybody else.
Okay. We're developing a large crowd in the comment section. We got Pantera La Luna, Mark W, VZ. Are these people coming into your normal gaming thing, Josh? Because
no, I mean, no. Okay, so all right, let me just kind of back up real quick, and before you guys get into remote viewing stuff. So, guys in the chat, welcome to the stream. Panthera La Luna is one of your students, former students.
Okay.
Auntie Elizabeth, she's regular with us. She comes a lot of our lives, whether it's a gaming live, whether it's a show live, whatever it is, she's usually there. And of course, Terry Lynn's my wife. She's in the chat. She's been, passing the word. Star Mama and Mark. Like I said, I think some of these people are former students from what I got in the comments. Danny Marie, hello.
There's our Danny.
VZ.
Yeah.
And let's see what else. I think I got everybody right now that's chatted.
Danny is also a student.
Yeah, so I think I've got everybody. I tried to mention everybody. If I didn't mention you, say something in chat. Say, hey, you forgot me. But I think I mentioned everybody, folks. All right, Stacy. So as you were.
All right. Remote viewing. A lot of people don't even know what that is because it's being thrown around now the same as, clairvoyant or psychic or it's become a generic term when it was actually something quite specific. Hey, Danny. The definition of it is a way of gathering actionable intelligence on a person, place, thing, or event anywhere in space-time using only the mind. That is the official definition provided by the military. They created the program, they created the process, so I use their definition for it. And really what it comes down to is, rather than the old way of thinking of psychic, is people would use their most prevalent ability, like hearing, clairaudient, visual, clairvoyance, different things like that to describe what kind of psychic they were. They were a psychic medium where they talked to the dead. Remote viewing is all of the above. It uses your five senses in order to gather intelligence and data directly from the universe, and from the vast database that is reality. Everything that exists in the universe, anywhere in the timeline, you can target. If it exists, you can target it and get information on it anywhere in the universe. And that goes down to the subatomic level, to the meaning and what it looks like inside of a black hole. If it exists, you can remote view it, because for all intents and purposes, your mind is a quantum computer, and that quantum entanglement that happens mathematically, people use that term a lot, but it is essentially every particle is derived from a single particle at the point of the Big Bang. So every particle in the universe is entangled with each other at some level. So you can actually, from your quantum computer, your brain, which is chemically based, pull information down like the browser on your own computer and view and sense any location anywhere in space-time. It's not, conjuring things. It's not, spirits or anything like that. It's pulling it directly from the universe itself. And it's very logical. If you want to know something, it is more than happy to tell you. Ask and you shall receive. That's pretty much what it comes down to. The problem is people have been trained not to listen. We've grown up in a society where that kind of thing is considered silly. It's superstitious. It's that mental state of being able to use your intuition in such a way to where you know things is frowned upon or even discouraged outright. Hey, Terry Lynn. What remote viewing does is it allows you to get beyond that from using your conscious mind and tap into the unconscious mind, passing through what they call the limit, which is the barrier, the gatekeeper between the two, your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. It's where we get the word subliminal. Everything that you experience, literally from every moment that you're awake and actually alive, is being recorded into your subconscious mind. You can tap that in various ways. There's trickery that you can use, which is what remote viewing really is. It's a form of psychological trickery to pull out critical information that you already know that you don't really know that you know. It's just pulling it out of you in such a way to where you can actually put it on paper and ferret out any question blind and target a location, target a person, target an event, and get information that no one else could get, or information that you're not supposed to get. There are no secrets. It's one of the reasons the military killed the program, because there are no secrets, and they really, really, really like their secrets. So it's one of those, you want to find out about UFOs, you want to find out about Bigfoot. These are all fun things we can do in remote viewing, but there are no secrets to the universe. And getting people to do remote viewing for the first time and becoming successful with it is really exciting to me, because you crack open a door and people are like, oh my God, I had no idea. This is so great. Until they figure out that it actually requires a little bit of work, effort involved, then they kind of fade away. But that first crack, I'm telling you, it is the best thing in the whole wide world.
Yeah, I want to throw in here too that for everybody watching, that I know some of you guys watching are students or former students of Stacy's. For those of you that are watching even after the live show, if you're watching this on replay, you can go in the link below, and normally Stacy's links toward the bottom of my links because it's my show. But today, for this being primarily his topic, I actually bumped his link up to the top. So guys, if you want to go to his courses on Udemy or Udemy, whatever you want to say, I've got his link on there for you guys. So it's down below. So again, for those of you, if you're interested in what he's talking about and you want to learn more, like more in-depth stuff, his courses are great. He's got students here, obviously, speaking up for him and talking good about him. Guys, go on that link, go there, take his courses.
Well, yeah, and this is my maiden voyage on Josh's show. I mean, I've been, a guest on his show a lot, sitting here most of the show. But him letting me essentially take over is a first. It really is. And I'm glad to lose my virginity with all of you. So.
No, look, you came to the show so much, I made you a co-host, dude. That's how you came here. So I was like, you know what? You can just host with me. And today, look, this is, again, out of my wheelhouse. So that's why I said, just take over today.
Yeah, we started with the Paranormal Council, which is like you guys' round table, what you guys do there. We had Paranormal Council of all kinds of different personalities talking about a singular subject. So,
and it's interesting because, Josh says it's out of his wheelhouse. And I would think that most investigators would also think so. It wasn't until, once Sarah unleashed her magic on me and I truly started understanding that we are all connected and that universe is at play in almost all of this. And in all of it, for sure. And how everything is connected, how Stacy, you and I are connected, Josh and I, all of us are connected. And my perspectives on what a ghost is changed as well. That's when I started looking at things much, much differently. And how is this possible? All of this, right, starts to make a lot of sense once you start connecting those dots and the threads. So, it was back in June of last year that first time I got to investigate with Sarah. We were at a really, really cool location in West Virginia called the Hammond House. It's just a magical place. And we had some pretty amazing activity there that, I don't even know how to explain it, but we investigated all night, and then we were all eating breakfast, and she's like, we should do something special here or somewhere. But what we had that night, it wasn't equipment hits, it wasn't all of that, right? And in all the years of doing this, I really never learned anything from a K2 meter or a REM pod, right? But it was these bigger experiences, the ones that were not equipment based, that I learned something. So that's where the concept for what we created there with making sense of your senses was born. And it was some months later that we really started getting busy on it. And for whatever reason, remote viewing called out to me. And kind of like we had talked about, when some psychics talk about it, it's as if they're leaving their body and going somewhere and looking at something, when it's, in my opinion, and probably yours, the total opposite, right? I'm not saying they're not doing it. What I'm saying is that information is coming to them, like you said, as a download. So as we put the program together, we had Reiki, then we had psychometry, and Danny did psychometry. Sarah did scrying with a twist, and then I chose remote viewing, thinking it was going to be a big old gamble. And none of us talked, none of us even shared our presentations until a couple of days prior. And once I started dropping them in, I was like, oh my God, these all tie together. It really just all flowed and tied together. And we built a course that was out of this world, like with results. That was the most amazing part of all of it. So,
well, and that's something that I always encourage all investigators to do, is to expand their horizons and not just be confined to just grabbing the meters and going out and just do that. Like, if you really want to get involved in paranormal research and investigation, to get into those things and into remote viewing and into not just that, but all aspects. I mean, there's divination, there's all these different courses out there or things to learn. And that's why I love meeting people, because then you learn from them. And Stacey was one of those ones that he came into my life. I came into his life. We both had, that cosmic mutual, friendship, to where he got to learn things. I learned from him, and it broadened my horizons to a whole nother level of ghost hunting and the beyond, because I've always been an in-depth thinker, but now there's this whole nother world of stuff. So it's really cool you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean, Josh is, a wizard with dowsing rods. I mean, he can do more with a dowsing rod than a K2 meter. It's K2 meter, right? The little blinky light thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That I've ever seen. I mean, we did one show a while back where I was doing the coconut shells divination, and he was doing dowsing rods, and we were asking the same questions. He's in Tennessee, I'm in Louisiana, and we were coming up with the exact same answers across the board.
Cool.
I don't think we missed one where
No, there wasn't one thing that was off.
Conflicting. Yeah. So the divination thing, depending on your skill set, can be a massive tool in determining, particular answers. Like it reminded me a lot of the paranormal couple. For whatever reason, I keep wanting to call them the Wonder Twins.
It's kind of like that. Yeah.
They touch and things change and start happening.
Yeah, Cody and Satori. It's just magic. Just magic.
Yeah.
No other
And
word.
see, that's what Terry Lynn and I was like. We made it a dynamic couple when we would go out to investigations, because we would use her skill sets where she's very sensitive and to paranormal and things like that. So she could literally be like a human K2 meter, and plus being an empath, and all these assets that she could bring to an investigation where she can help guide us in the right ballpark. And then I have my assets. So like, again, that's what makes a really good team too, is when you do have a variety of things, and maybe somebody's like more of like a remote viewer, all those things. But anyways, you guys talk.
Yeah, a lot of times when me and Josh get going, we can end up, start off with talking about a particular subject. The next thing you know, we're talking about racing. So it just, keeping on track is not always a thing. But as far as remote viewing is concerned, a week ago Monday, I was on Paranormally Blonde, and the whole audience did a remote viewing called associative remote viewing, and we made a prediction. Do you remember what it was, Sarah?
I do. You asked us to vision an apple in one hand and then envision an apple in the other hand, and then decide which one felt heavier.
Mhm.
And then everybody had their say, and it was about if gold was going to be higher or lower the next day.
Right. And the consensus was there was a few people. I think Dee Dee was that it was going to go, higher.
No, that was me.
That was you.
That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it did go higher. It was one of the only days where no. Am I saying this wrong now?
It went lower the day. It
down.
went lower the day after the show, but the day after on Wednesday it went up. Like it was a weird whatever.
Right. It was the only day of that week where it actually did the opposite of what it did for the rest of the week. So yeah, it did go lower. And that was the consensus.
Mhm.
That's usually how, when you work in teams and with associate remote viewing, it works. It's a consensus thing. The majority wins because that's where you're pooling a lot of your talent is in the consensus of the majority. And you guys on that level nailed it. It was the opposite. If I was to predict that just normally, off the top of my head, I would have done it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because the logic based off of the banking crisis that was happening, the banks that were closing, the Fed was going nuts, all this, gold should have gone absolutely through the roof.
Yep. So shut up.
And it didn't. It went down.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually is able to tell you what the truth is, regardless of what you may think. And I play gamble on, just like what Rob was saying, whether it was going to work on the crowd for your making sense of your senses. I kind of threw the dice on that one too, because you never really know whether people are going to sync up in that way. But I think they did on your show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you certainly had the right people, at least on the show, who are willing and believe that this was possible. Yeah, but and the watchers too. The viewers are way into what we do. So yeah, no, that was cool. I did. That's the first thing I checked the next morning. I'm like, where's gold? What's going on at Max? And I'm like, it's down.
I do want to add another thing too, because there was another unrelated remote viewing thing that took place on that same day. That Monday that I did the interview is actually happening at the same time I was doing the show. And give you a little background here. Ed Dames, who taught me remote viewing, has since the early 90s made a singular prediction that has scared the bejesus out of everybody, including everybody in government, the Pentagon, intelligence communities. This one prediction is literally a doughy pant load for everybody involved. And that is what he calls the kill shot. And if you haven't gotten that far in the courses where I talk about the kill shot, it was determined that what this was a massive solar CME, solar flare and CME, coronal mass ejection, that would hit the Earth and cause grid down scenario, basically akin to nuclear war, where we would lose all power, we would lose everything essentially, and be thrown back to the 1800s. That one prediction has caused the Pentagon to start doing studies. In 2012, we got what Ed Dames called a shot across the bow. A massive CME took place, missed us by 9 hours, that was akin to what they call the Carrington event, the biggest solar event ever recorded. And it would have taken down the entire grid, the satellites, and it missed us by 9 hours back in 2012. It was so big, it pegged the needle on all of the satellites, the SOHO satellites that track the stuff. They created a new category called an X class. So you have now X flares. It didn't exist before 2012. Well, on the show, while I was on the show, the sun did the same thing this time, but it did it in the opposite side. It was on the far side of the sun. The SOHO satellites that we have are on either side and behind the sun, so we can see the sun in a 360 fashion. There was a solar CME flash that was so big that it pegged the needle again beyond the X-class category. They're now considering calling it mini nova. They lost that satellite because the sun basically blew it out of the sky on the opposite side. And the images that they have from this is from our side, from Earth. And it shot out so much material that the sun actually looked like a daisy. In every direction, it just shot out and was essentially blew out half the sun on the other side. If that had been Earth facing, we wouldn't be talking right now. This singular thing has made the government absolutely lose their mind. And it just happened last week while we were talking.
All right. Why do you always scare me? Stop it.
Well, I wanted to bring you up to speed because it originated in remote viewing. Ed Dames did this in 1992. You know, before 9/11, before all this other stuff where people got into remote viewing. This was the one event that everybody was calling bullshit on because they didn't think it was possible. It was impossible to take place. Scientists were, saying, no, that is not, it's never happened. It's never going to happen. Stop scaring people. Well, yeah. Now the Pentagon has done studies. What happens after a grid down? And I got to tell you, that freaked me out.
Yeah.
Because they came out and said that if we lose power in this country for 90 days, 9 out of 10 people in the cities will be dead. 90% of the population. Nobody's prepared for this, except those countries around the world that are used to this sort of thing. Russia, China, they've been preparing for this sort of thing. And remote viewing, for me, has been a way of finding out what needs to happen, what people need to learn in order to get past it all, because it's survivable. This is a survivable thing. And no one wants to hear it because it's too freaky. It's too scary. And it's just science now says it's just a matter of time. It's not even a matter of remote viewing or predictions or prophecies. It's now science. It's a matter of time. It's going to happen. So,
I'm just saying my mom a farewell.
Well,
way to bring down the show, Stacy. What the hell?
Yeah, seriously.
no,
I need a joint.
What's going on right now?
That's like classic Stacy right there. Start out with one thing, then we end up with doomsday by the end, doom and gloom.
Bro,
I wanted to get that out because it actually literally happened when I was on your show, and it's related to remote viewing.
And you also stated I remember this was part of the course, right? Rob did let us know this, and anybody that's on Udemy taking his remote viewing, it's something you do state. Like there are certain times that you shouldn't remote view, right? And some of that does have to do with, does it not, the solar flares, right? Like certain electromagnetic things going on, and right?
Well, yeah, it really all depends on your instrument. Some people are more sensitive to aurora borealis. They're the magnetic fields of the earth doing things. The physical instrument that you have needs to be without distraction. If you've got a toothache, you're not going to be able to remote view very well because you're thinking about the toothache.
Right.
You're not listening to the inner senses of the subtlety of your senses, your smell, your hearing, your taste, all that stuff. You're going to be going, this hurts.
Right.
I can't do it. So there are times that remote viewing.
We're talking about the God helmet and the solar flares.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's
okay.
where that came out.
Okay. My mistake. But I felt Stacy said the same thing, because he even said on that Monday, like, you guys check something with the atmosphere or with weather or something, and you're like really not supposed to be doing it on that day.
Well, it comes down to what you're sensitive to.
Yeah.
Some people are more sensitive to the electromagnetic fields. Where you should, pay attention as far as remote viewing is concerned is what's in your immediate environment. Because there's hard coded things that your brain is just meant to do, like anything that's shiny. Like if you have like a crystal ball off on your shelf behind you that's in your field of view, you got to get that out of the way, because your brain will always go to that shiny thing as a point of reference. We're hard coded to do that. Like, living in the jungle back in the day, you're used to seeing shiny eyes from behind the bushes that might come out and eat you. Your brain has been basically coded to that as a survivability thing. So shiny stuff, get it out of the way. Hunger, you can't get past the hunger. If you're a little bit hungry, eat, just get it done. If you're thirsty, drink. If you're jonesing for a cigarette or a cup of coffee, do it, because your body will take control and completely dominate your session and your AOA.
I disagree.
Why?
And my body must be stuck on, hey, fucking, you're hungry all the time. So that's why I gain all this weight. So anyway,
so how far have you gotten in my course?
That's the problem.
Yeah. So yeah, your body will dominate the session. It'll be AOLs all over the place, which stands for analytical overlays, the creative imagination that takes over.
See, and the AOLs, like, as I learned about those things from your courses, I was taking that and transposing it over to investigations I've been on, right? And things I've witnessed some of the guests or other people that I've investigated with kind of create a story from things they already, and I'm guilty of this too, things that they have come into, primed with a perception of a location or a story that's already there. So those AOLs can happen even when when you're not trying to remote view. It was super interesting to start learning all of this and see how it applied to pretty much everything we do.
Yeah, because remote viewing was designed by psychologists at Stanford Research Institute, SRI. It's not, they use psychics as guinea pigs, but the process itself was developed by these psychologists. The main person who gave them the best direction on all of that was Ingo Swann, who wasn't really a psychic. He was an astrologer, but he was on the spectrum. He was really anal with the way that he thought about things. So as he was working through a particular thing that he was trying to get information on, he wrote down his thought process as he was thinking it. And that was the light bulb moment. The psychologists were like, hey, we can actually not only track this, but we can train this. This is a trainable thing. And that's where it really all developed from him. And Ingo Swann is where you get the words remote viewing. He coined it. And he was, after the program came out, he was suddenly a rock star in the UFO community and a lot of these paranormal communities, to the point where he hated it. He tried to avoid, he became a recluse.
Now, I want to jump in here real quick, since we're typically about halfway. We tend to go to about 10:30. We don't always have to, but I want to jump in real quick, guys, and remind of our sponsor, Paranormal Underground Magazine. You guys can see it right here above my head. Guys, if you have not gotten this magazine, you need to go there. It's Paranormal Underground Magazine. I think it's paranormalunderground.net. Just tell them that I sent you. You're going to get a full year for free. It comes in your email every first of the month, and it is a fully illustrated magazine. Our past friend Bob Fountain used to write for him. God rest your soul, Bob. But such a great magazine. Cheryl Knight and Chad, they do such a good job over there. So I gotta always shout them out. Stacy and I got our faces in there every episode. Now we got the new ad in there. I got Stacy's mug in there. So, but guys, go check them out. I mean, it's free for at least an entire year, and I think they don't even charge you after that. So, what are you waiting for? It's got all kinds of articles about all this stuff, like so many articles with experts talking about paranormal, aliens, everything. Paranormal Underground Magazine. Guys, go check it out. And also, I wanted to remind everybody watching, please like, share, subscribe to the Everything Paranormal Show, guys. We appreciate your support. I just dropped the new episode 3 YouTube version tonight or today. So it's available. You guys can go watch it after the show. Don't go watch it right now. After the show, go watch it. You can go see it's part of the Kelly Farm investigation. Really cool. And then also, if you want to catch the rest of the series, it's on Paraflix. So, all right, back to you guys.
Okay. I wanted to. We talked a little bit about the making sense of your senses.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys target in that?
So, hey, I'll be the first to admit, right? I took pretty much your entire format and tried to condense it down into 45 minutes or so, which was,
hey, if it worked, go for it.
You know what? It worked. So it was kind of a crash course in RV. And all I really expected or hoped for was that people would walk away with at least an interest and maybe a better understanding of what our brains do. So the first target, I took pretty much everything, made a bunch of slides, used some Stacy-isms in there with the things I was talking about, but basically got them to the point where we would give at least the first one I thought was going to be the first target was going to be a throwaway, just practice, because it is when you first look at it, right? And especially with your flow chart, it's like you can look at that and be like, what, like, what am I going to do here? And I could see some confusion on people's faces as we kind of went through the stages of what to do. But I really wanted them to get the gist of perceive and record. And then if an AOL comes, declare it, throw the pen down. And I was like, the first one's just, we're not even going to be close. Oddly enough, when I took your course, one of the bunch of times I've run through it now, like my first ideogram on yours, I drew this. My ideogram was kind of what the target was, like startlingly close. But our first target that night was the Heyman house, the place that Sarah kind of dreamt up, the whole concept of making sense of your senses. And I watched them all go, and I fully expected it to be garbage. And as we looked through everybody's sketches, it was Sarah drew the fence, another person kind of drew the house, another person drew the river that's across the street from the house. I believe that even trees and the mountains in the background, right, Sarah?
There was the water aspect.
Yeah, the water, all of it. So if we took everybody's sketches and combined them, we basically had the target. And, the beautiful part of it for me was, there were people there that are investigators, and then they had brought some SOs along, people that probably weren't as into it as others, who sat there and gave this a go.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, at first, the psychometry, they were all like blown. They're like, holy like, did I just get that? And in Sarah's session, there was watching these people scry and do some automatic writing, and their hands are going, and we're standing there going, this is actually happening right in front of our eyes. It was so cool. So it almost was like, all right, we're going to end it with RV, and it'll be whatever it is, right? At least they'll have the concepts. But once that first one came out, and they were sitting there like, wow, we were all kind of stunned at what we were able to pull off in about 45 minutes, of me yapping at them and confusing the shit out of them, they still did it and wanted to keep going. So we did 2 more targets, I think.
I believe so.
Were they photographs or the word cues?
They were all photographs.
Okay.
I just figured it was, I don't know why. I just picked it.
It's actually better to start off with that way, because word cues can, like Google, you can say things one way and you get one search result as opposed to a different search result if you say it another way, because Google will literally take whatever you say and try and find that.
Yeah.
The word cues are similar that way.
Yeah.
But if you've got a picture, that is a snapshot of an actual place at an actual moment in time from a particular point of view.
Yeah.
Though that is like, as far as like a cue is concerned, because you don't have to put in a time parameter. You don't have to do any of that. Now, you may not land in the view of where the camera was seeing it. That's a problem, because when you're starting out, you may end up above it, next to it, right off the end of your nose. You don't know where you're going to land when you go there, mentally, on when you're first starting out.
Right.
But you're there. Your mind will actually go to that particular location at that moment. So the picture is perfect in that regard. So
yeah, and it just worked. And then on the second target, some of the sketches were different, but the descriptors were certainly they were pretty accurate, from colors to dimensional, descriptors to, it was just, they were there, right? Some of the sketches were right on, some were a little off, but the descriptors were there. It was just, and those could have been AOLs, runaway AOLs, but I really couldn't have asked for a better. I'm almost afraid to do it again because it was so good, right? I'm like, that was so good.
Well, you know what to look out for now. I mean, you know what works because it already has. It's positive affirmation. You know that it works. You just can expand upon that. And if your expansion doesn't work, then you know not to do that again.
Right.
But, you know what works. That's the hardest part. The positive affirmation is gold.
And it's so wild. Like when Rob was just saying that, like he's kind of afraid to do it again. And it's anytime you come across these things in the world of paranormal, what I mean, like things that are above and beyond normal explanation, right? And I remember when I first did the dowsing rods for ourselves, and like Terry Lynn handed me the dowsing rod. She's like, I can't do this because we started getting contact from her grandmother, and then so she was asking questions that I didn't know the answers to. But the dowsing rods in my hand were moving and giving answers. And it was such a perfect session that I remember that feeling like Rob was talking about. It's like when I got done, I'm like, this was so amazing that I'm almost afraid to do it again. Like it's like somehow it was a fluke or something. And like I was kind of, it's when you experience something on that level, it just does something different to your mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, it was it just for us, I think, right? And was seeing the looks on their faces and the excitement and the tears at some points when the psychometry sessions were bringing back memories for people. It was just it was a beautiful mixture of techniques and styles and emotions, but then ramping them up and then cutting them loose to investigate this awesome haunted location without the gear and trying to implement some of these new techniques was just cool. It couldn't ask for a better night or a better group of people.
I think the other thing that's really amazing about Rob, you choosing to do the remote viewing, and one thing that I loved about everything about making sense of your senses is this, and this is not a knock on anybody if this is their career choice or this is what they choose to share in their gifts, but we did the psychometry, we did the scrying with a twist, which was automatic writing. And, I'm a pretty big pusher on, every one of us are very magical. And the remote viewing was such a, it's not a, it was technical, but I think what I loved about it was almost like textbook wording of, do you get that you yourself are so magical, and that it's not about being the psychic, it is about touching what you are already, or owning or realizing what you're already connected to, which is universe. And so I think the beautiful thing about making sense of your senses is we had 3 very different but the same sort of exercises that they got to realize in each of those, that they themselves are very magical and can have those answers that they want. You don't have to give that power over. And I'm not trying to get rid of anybody's career or knock them out of business, but we hand that over every day. We hand this power over every day to somebody else. And somebody that, like myself, who really enjoys the practice of Reiki, and you start to understand just what we can do for ourselves. Remote viewing to me was this amazing, the introduction to it was just an amazing thing that just validated something that I already knew. And that it was like, see, this is just another aspect that anyone who chooses to go inward and to give yourself that effort, like stop handing it over to somebody else, give yourself that effort, you're gonna live in that magic. So I love the remote viewing aspect of it. I felt like, here's something that is a little bit more technical, textbook. This is not just all woo woo. This is remote viewing. Here's the science behind it, and you can just do it. And it's a beautiful thing.
I want to hijack something too real quick, because earlier I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to sidetrack both. Because one thing that Rob brought up is something that I found fascinating that he noticed, and it's very common. I see this all the time. And of course, I'm sure all of you guys do. But in the world of paranormal, so many times you see teams go into, or individuals go into a location, and there's this preconceived notion that because a child died there, because of this story, that this is the spirit, this is what you are going to talk to. This is exactly what you're. So when they do their sessions, they're like, they're trying to focus just on this ghost. I've found that in many paranormal investigations, that's not the person that I end up talking to. It's not the ghost that is the urban legend of that location or whatever. It's another spirit that is out of like left field or something. It doesn't even, you know what I mean? Something I didn't even expect. But it's just funny that Rob brought that up, because I see it so much. And
I blame Zack Attack. He's monkey see, monkey do. It's he does that. He goes in deep into the story of what happened in a particular place, and then magically, it's actually just a demon child, and he needs to, do something with it, whether expel it or battle it or whatever it is that he thinks he's doing. But monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, I just had to bring that up, because when he brought that up, I was like, I was going to say something, but you guys were going on other stuff, and I had to go back to that, because it's just such a common thing that happens all the time, and it's almost like they force it. They're really trying to force any spirit communication to be that particular urban legend ghost or whatever they're seeking. That's what they're trying to make and warp everything into, when that's not the point of investigating the location.
But that's a side effect of being human in any topic in living life. I think that when we can see daily things that have nothing to do with paranormal, we see what we want to see. We truly can create a narrative by what we believe. And I think that, it's a lazier way of going about your day, but it gets many people through their day. And I think it gets many people through their investigations, and we don't know what they're, with Zach, look, there's entertainment paranormal. That's very different than as we keep hearing boots on the ground paranormal. So, and that's okay. There's obviously a desire for it. So who do we get more upset about? Do we get upset about Zach, or do we get upset about the people who are consuming it? Because that's what they want to see. And so that's what the networks are going to put out there.
And I'm guilty, right? I'm guilty myself right now with my shows. If you go watch my new shows now, they're a hybrid. It's entertainment, but it's real. Like I don't, that's one of the differences. There's entertainment paranormal, but they're also faking it. And that's the stuff I don't like.
Well,
I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind the entertainment aspect.
Right.
But
I don't know if we can use the faking word in the and the networks, because we should all be smart enough to understand that network is network, and they script things for a reason. Even reality television is not reality; it's television. You can't have reality and television and it be what it says. But I think that, you know, when you're an investigator or you're somebody that's very interested in learning what universe is and what we can connect with, I think, you know, you do have to step out. And when you can find courses like Stacy's on Udemy, you know, they're beautiful finds, but I don't know that that is something that you could place out on, you know, the for the masses and they'll eat it up, because you know, again, it's about giving your power away. So I think for us, you know, Rob and I are we carry very much the similar sort of missions and sort of how we feel we should move forward. And it's not about knocking everybody else down. It's about finding those people that want to have some real experiences for themselves. And, you know, if you want to go into a location and you love the story that's attached to it and that's what you want to go find, that's okay. But if you want to go a step further and you want to see if there's something else lurking there, then, you know, that's great too. And we hope that, you know, Get Haunted sort of provides that atmosphere that, you know, stories are great. But as living people, we love a story and we love to continue that on. So the ghost of that story, right? We breathe so much life into it. And I think there are so many other things out there waiting to be discovered. And, you know, I don't know. I am very grateful that Rob found Stacy's courses and brought it to my attention, because I think the way that it has sort of been sold in paranormal I was shocked that I'll keep it real. Like, remote viewing was not what I thought it was. you know, I thought it was sort of what the psychics were selling it as. And when Rob started to teach it and, you know, we're learning it, I'm like, wow, not at all what I thought. And so what are they psychics must be doing something. The reality is it's not the traditional remote viewing. That's not what they're doing. It's something else. So, you know, it's like, we got to find a new name for what they do. It's not remote viewing, right? It's what you've taught is, like you said, it's getting this information that we can all be privy to if we can just quiet it down, use the appropriate side of your brain, and get that information out.
Right. And I agree with what you're saying to a point. And like I said, I get what you're saying. I only wanted to point out the fact that I'm not a big fan of when people are forcing, because you got to also remember, to me, when I'm at a location and spirits are trying to communicate, you know, it's just like human beings in that sense that you want to listen and find out who they really are. Because if you're trying to force them and say, oh, you are the man in the green mask for, I don't know, you know, and because that's the legend, and you're forcing that spirit's not going to get heard correctly. And a lot of spirits want to be heard. That's why I think it's important. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with you there. I think from my standpoint is, I don't believe that every spirit and every investigator has that. Like, if we connect in universe, I think that the connections we make in paranormal as investigators, I think what you possibly connect with, Josh, if you and I go to the same location, you can have this big experience. You could connect with the spirit. That doesn't mean that it's going to be for me. And I very much am of the belief that there's a reason why it's not meant for me. Now, I'm not going to necessarily, if there is the green masked spirit that everybody talks about, I'm also not going to say that's what I connected with. I'm just going to do this. I didn't get anything, right? Like, but that doesn't mean you didn't and you connected with somebody. I think there are lessons in what we connect with. That's for me. And I feel like that's a little bit what remote viewing has sort of validated for me, is when you open yourself to those lessons, you have to be ready for them, right? And not everybody is ready for maybe that spirit that you connected with. So, and maybe they don't want to, I mean, we don't like even every living person we talk to, right? So
Right.
perhaps maybe some of those spirits don't like every investigator, and they're like, "Oh, go screw yourself. I'm not going
Right.
to talk to you tonight." So
Oh yeah, no, I mean I get that, and I know what you're saying with connecting to specific spirits. I'm talking about when some of these investigators connect with a spirit, but they're trying to force it into a different persona. Is what I'm saying. You know, that it's like if you and I were talking, but then I keep saying, no, your name is Tracy or something. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, my name's Sarah. No, it's Tracy because Tracy is what I need it to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and then the Buddhist in me would say, and that's fine.
Say you're too pacifist then.
No, not. I don't know, Josh. Ask Rob about that. Am I a pacifist? I don't know if that's the right word.
He's like, I don't know, man.
her mantra is do no harm, but take no shit. And I've seen her not take shit. And yeah.
Really? I thought her mantra was don't be a dick.
Well, it's also that.
That's also the other mantra. We have lots of B mantras, Stacey. So Tracy. So now I'm going to call you Tracy. Thanks, Josh.
Well, as far as remote viewing is concerned, once you open up that aspect to your mind and your brain is actually starting to realize that it's receiving data, you will actually start paying attention to it on a regular basis. Use the analogy of you buy a particular car, you buy a yellow car, let's say it's a yellow VW, then all of a sudden you see yellow VWs all over the place, all over the road that you never saw before.
Yeah.
Because your brain has actually trained itself to look for that car because it's your car. And remote viewing will do that. Once you got that positive affirmation that what you sense is real data, you won't ignore it anymore or throw it in the back burner. It's like, oh, that's silly. It actually comes to the forefront and you start paying attention, paying attention and paying attention. Next thing you know, you're making predictions on the fly with other people that are around you. And they're like, how do you know that? What is going on with you? It's like, oh, sorry, you don't know. So, and you move on.
Yeah.
But you're picking up that data on a constant level that you just trained your brain to accept. And it is part of you as smelling or hearing or tasting or any of that, because it is your senses that is being communicated through. And your psychic ability, because at that point it's just part of you. You're not really psychic. You're just expanded you to include the rest of the universe. And it's hard to go back to be the way that you were. And like in the movie The Matrix, would you really want to? So it's a great tool, and it's an exercise. And if you've got things like Danny with the psychometry, you'll have spasms where you're not even paying attention. You'll touch the shopping cart at Walmart and you'll get like really grossed out because you just got this visual of what was going on, the previous person who touched it. Those kind of spasms are to be expected, but
Right. Thanks, Stacey.
It's happened to me. I know it happened. It happened to me. I touched the cart, not even thinking, and all of a sudden, the person who touched it right before me was just a disgusting individual. And left their energy on it, so I had to go cleanse myself just to get rid of it all. So, which I suggest you should do too. Lord water. Yay! I got a case that just arrived today. So yeah.
There you go. Oh,
I forgot I was going to go with that, but essentially, remote viewing is designed to reset that first 3 seconds that everyone has. With you walk into a room and you get a sense of what's going on around you. You get a weird feeling going into a room. You meet somebody for the first time, and that person just all of a sudden feels like your soulmate for that first 3 seconds. And then your brain, we've been trained to do throughout life, is to ignore it. That's wrong. Remote viewing resets that 3 seconds over and over and over again and allows you to write it down in a particular format to where anyone can read it, interpret it, and say, okay, this is what the information that you're getting is essentially a giant jigsaw puzzle. You're putting together at the very end and saying, this is the target. And 80% of it, for most, will be true.
So Stacey, is mother's intuition, that first few seconds of having that gut feeling and
Yes.
reacting on it, is that a sense of or an aspect of remote viewing?
Well, remote viewing is the process. It's the way in which you unwind the information. The information isn't remote viewing. Your intuition, that's a thing. Mother's intuition, absolutely. Women, for whatever reason, I don't understand it necessarily. Maybe it's because I'm not a woman or a biologist, but women on certain times of the month are.
Wait a minute. You can be a woman nowadays. It's okay. If you want to be, just say you are.
Yeah, I really can't do that. The whole full moon cycle, that's all on women, real women. And for whatever reason, that same full moon cycle, women are particularly more sensitive. I think that's where the whole werewolf thing comes from too, but that's a different story. The whole chemical change that women go through can actually enhance. And what those chemicals are, whether it's estrogen or whatever, men are just not as healthy or as adept on a monthly scale. So we have to do slow and steady all the time. But women just naturally, their intuition kicks in really hard on certain times of the month. So mother's intuition, yeah, absolutely. I've seen mothers, the baby's crying, they're losing their mind, they don't know what's going on. Baby stops crying, and all of a sudden, that's when it gets scary. The baby stops crying. We don't need that. Yeah. So, mom, that you can see the dread that goes on when things just aren't right. Mother's intuition is, it's a mystery to me, but at the same time, I don't question. It's not remote viewing, to answer your question, but it can be used in remote viewing.
Okay. All right.
And I would say too, as we get toward the back end of the show, for those of you in chat, this is the time I think when, if our guys are willing to take some questions. If you guys in chat have any questions for Stacey or Rob or Sarah, this would be the perfect time to start getting your questions in chat. And we always like to try to interact with our audience as well. So any questions you have, put them in chat, guys.
Yeah. Did we have a question? I thought I saw one.
You remote viewed it. Hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet.
Or it happened, and we
see that's because you must have instructed them so well, Stacey, that they have no questions at all. So you did your job too well.
I so wish that was true. I spend my whole day answering questions. I got 30,000 students, and the range of topics is large.
Well, that was surprising for me, right? Because I didn't understand. I only knew you as Stacey, the remote viewing guy, in the beginning. So once I learned about everything else, so it was a big surprise to me because, again, right, it gets compartmentalized, I think, in a different way than traditional paranormal or metaphysical type of thing. So yeah, it was kind of cool to learn that that you were into everything that I was into.
Yeah, the hoodoo conjure. And Virgil Kane says how cute is that blonde chick?
I don't know. How cute.
Yeah, is that a question or is that a comment? I guess
That's what I wanted to know. Is it a scale level?
Yeah, is there a measuring stick here? That's awesome.
Well, we'll give her a 10 out of 10 on the cuteness scale.
Thanks.
There you go. See, you're having a good night, Sarah.
I'm having a great night.
And that's from England, and they clearly have higher standards.
I don't know much about England.
Yeah, I didn't see much.
That was the question. That
was the question. That was the only question.
That was more of a comment.
How cute is the blonde chick? So,
there you go. The dude's getting nothing tonight.
Not really a remote viewing question, but
I'm so much more than cute.
Yeah. But he also said he can't even get arrested in that town. So
I'll just start throwing out some questions like I normally would do if I was interviewing you guys, and I would just say, so Rob and Sarah, whoever wants to go first, what got you into paranormal in the first place? Like, where did that start?
You want me to go first?
Yes.
So for me, I'm the youngest of 3 girls. My mom was very much into the metaphysical side, the spiritual side, angels, psychics, astrology. My sisters are 10 and 7 years older than myself. They were into horror movies. So for me, I grew up at the age of 6 starting to watch crazy movies like Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things and Night of the Living Dead and all that kind of stuff. So like the scary stuff, but also was very in touch with the lighter side. And I think that I'm kind of one of those more boring investigators in the sense that I don't have that story that I grew up in a haunted house or that I had this big experience. I think that I've had many experiences within my life that really drew just a desire to journey into what else is there in general, and learning about my connection to those things. So, that just sort of turned into, once like what you said, Josh, with ghost hunters out there, once you kind of started seeing the shows, you're like, I can do that too. And we started just going out and as a team of sisters, investigating locations and trying out equipment. But I always wanted to know more. I was kind of the person who would be in paranormal, probably why I was kind of left out a lot, like kind of pushed outside the circle of paranormal, is wanting to understand the living part of what interacting with the dead part was. Because I think a lot of times we forget just how capable our bodies are, our minds are, and how we're affecting certain things that we interact with daily that might not actually be as big of an anomaly as we think it is. So I would always just ask questions, and it could be, do we have more paranormal now that opiates are a big problem, or do we, and these are just questions. This isn't to piss anybody off. It's just, we should be able to dig into this. I'm not a believer in there's been something put out there and this is what I have to follow. And then as I changed courses with my more spiritual beliefs and dropping Christian narrative and turning more to Buddhism, that changed paranormal for me even more. And then, of course, in a year's time, getting to be with Get Haunted, it's been a beautiful sort of understanding of how to bring all those things together, different beliefs, different thoughts, dropping those things, bringing them back in and being okay with it all, and just focusing on my own journey. So that's my paranormal story.
Awesome. And Rob, how about you? We got a couple of questions I'm going to get to too, but I want to make sure we don't skip over Rob. What got you into paranormal?
I can keep it short. Ghosts. So, my gosh. Honestly, always had an interest in it. Probably like most people, watch the shows, all that fun stuff. Did have a couple of probably experiences when I was younger. Looking backwards now, some things that happened, while I was in the military and at other times in my life, now we're probably more intuition or something else. Now that I understand this a bit better, but really what pushed me over the edge was after my dad passed, and my daughter was 2, and talking to him, playing with him, things happening in the house, and I'm like, this is not okay. I was, in Pennsylvania, we're allowed to have guns here. You know, I was clearing the house with a gun at night because of the bangs and the knocks and the things that were happening. It was frightening. That's really what pushed me into trying to find the answers. I knew what I was seeing and hearing, and what my daughter, who had never watched a scary movie or a monster movie, was drawing and talking about, and I was just like, "There's something to this." So that was back in 08. You know, it kind of got me moving towards this path that I'm on for the last however many years now.
All right, so Panthera, we're gonna get to you first, and then I think we got D Bem and Terry Lynn. So we got a little bit of everything here. So let's post up Panthera here. Explain a time when it was difficult to avoid those low vibe entities.
Rob, you've got that story covered.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, you know, how it's kind of how I ended up meeting Sarah. I spent 11 nights at the Conjuring Row, but, you know, cumulatively at the Conjuring House in Rhode Island, and things got weird, right? And back to what we were talking about earlier, Josh, is, you know, I don't know how much of the movie or the stories played into, you know, the story that I was creating in my head about what was happening to me. Things definitely happened to me, and I was afraid of that house when I really probably shouldn't have been, but certainly created a story and certainly felt like things were going bad. So long story short, it wasn't until, you know, working with Sarah and her connecting these dots that I realized that, you know, most of what happened to me was really just an awakening, me getting rid of some baggage, getting rid of trauma. Things that occurred in the house were actually tied to specific events in my life. As far 43 years back, you know, somehow she knew about these things. You know, literally the last thing she said to me before it really started to click was, you know, did you ever think that those demons you're talking about are yours? And it really flicked a switch in me. Not saying that there's nothing in the house. The house is amazingly haunted, but it's also an amazingly powerful place. But it is nothing like the movies and nothing like the stories that you hear out there. So are there low energy and low vibe entities there? Probably there's some nasties there, but they're not what everybody thinks they are. So avoiding them, not easy. Old Montana prison's probably the only place that I would say really ever truly ran into something that made me go, yeah, I'm done. Like I quit. I quit. Like I was done investigating after that place for a few months. But yeah, it's so avoiding them is also avoiding what's happening to you in your head or your state of being or your level of being healed from things in the past. It's all connected, right?
Right. Now, this next one is from DBEM, and it just says, "Are you teaching any more courses? I loved all of your courses."
Is that for me or
That's got to be for Stacy.
I would say so.
Making sense of your senses is a course too. You guys are teaching.
True. It's a course. It's a live action course. Yes, we will be doing more of those, Stacy. We certainly will.
Well, the courses that I teach are in the links below. I'm always working on new ones, but I need to make them relevant to not only what I've already taught, but to how they actually solve a problem. Because you know, creating courses that have no real purpose are of no use to me. Everything has to have a practical application. If you can't use it in your life, then why even learn it? All I'd be doing is taking your money for no reason. So, you know, if you're going to learn something, you better be able to do something with it, or else I'm not a good teacher at all. I'm just a, guru like most of them are. So.
And Terry Lynn wanted me to put up here. It says, well, Stacy can tell you all about the house she grew up in.
Yeah, well, that's the dead. I don't know anything about the house. The dead keep telling me stuff about our house. So whatever they decide to cough up, that's what it is. So.
And we have another one that came in was Fashion Films and Photography, Michael Vanderpool. It says, hi, and thanks everyone. My questions for Stacy. Can you explain or talk a bit more about Camalangos being more accurate in confirming some information and remote viewing and accuracy with that?
Chamalongos. The main difference between chamalongos and remote viewing is that chamalongos are the 4 coconut shells, the divination process. That's actually talking with your ancestors or with your spirits or protecting guides. Mm-hmm. Remote viewing doesn't even approach them. You're pulling directly down from the universe, the huge database that is a holographic universe that we live in. It is purely informational, just like a web browser, just like Google. The Chamalongos, on the other hand, are an interactive representation of what your own spirits are saying. So, and it's yes or no. Depending on how you ask the questions, everything is answered yes and no. Just like the dowsing rods that Josh uses, cross for yes, push apart for no, that kind of thing. Those are the questions that you ask. Remote viewing, you can, ask a simple question about Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War, and you can get highly detailed information of what was taking place at that particular moment, what the smells in the air, the texture of the ground that you're standing on. Get a sense of what Abraham Lincoln actually sounded like, what his voice sounded like. Understand what it is to walk amongst troops before the time that deodorant was invented. So you can pull down all kinds of information that you normally wouldn't get. Chamalongos, you're yes, no, yes, no.
Mm-hmm. So. Interesting.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say that, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. Stacy, great job tonight talking about your remote viewing and everything about that. Like I said, I like we like to bring these subjects to you guys. We try to do a show about every Thursday, every other Thursday sometimes, depending if sometimes I get kind of crazy stuff going on. But we try to be here about every Thursday, 9 p.m. Guys, if you want to check out these subjects and more, we're always talking about different subjects. And sometimes you just never know. Stacy and I, like you said earlier, we may start out talking about ghost investigations, or talking about like divination. Who knows what it is? We start out with one thing, but by the end of the show, we may be talking about 4 or 5 other things in there. Or who knows? I mean, so
Star Wars. We're talking about Star Wars now.
Yeah, who knows? So that's why you don't want to miss our live shows. So click like, subscribe, hit that bell so you're notified when we do go live, guys. But I just definitely want to thank my guests, Rob, Sarah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And guys, I'm going to give you one more chance too. If one or both of you want to shout out, what do you got going? What do you got coming up? Where can people find you?
So, head on over to any of the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. No, not Twitter. I'm sorry, not Twitter. Yeah. Twitter's mean. We don't do Twitter. But Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you can look for Get Haunted. You can look for Get Haunted Network public page and the private group page as well. You can also go to gethaunted.com. We have an event this weekend and almost every weekend in April as well. But you can go to gethaunted.com, our events, and check out anything that we've got on the calendar coming up. And then also you can see anything Get Haunted right there on Paranormally Blonde every Monday live at 7 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. Is that good?
What she said. Yeah.
You guys got a full slate of stuff throughout the whole year. I mean, I don't know where you find time to do anything.
I don't.
We don't, Stacy.
Awesome. Yes. So So, guys, definitely go check them out. And also, Panthera did throw in a question there saying dowsing rods is a yes or no.
Yeah, well, you can do yes or no with dowsing rods. You know,
I say yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
I love them.
I suck at them, but I like them.
I love them. They connected with
the question, but yes, I would say yes. No, that's a no. Yes.
You know how one of the things that I find interesting too. You know how when Satori was touching your hand in one of these videos where you got all tingly and stuff.
Yeah.
From like a year ago, it was posted
like a year ago. Yeah, I couldn't feel my hands for 2 hours.
Josh gets that when he does the dowsing rods.
Really?
Yeah, comes in and gets all tingly and stuff, and then that's what made me think of it when I saw the video.
It is weird. It was like needles. It was this arm. It was like needles orbiting my arm. It was it's insane. It was insane.
Yeah. That and feet, like I don't know if it's where when you're grounded to the earth and there's that connection, but feet is also a thing. Like with Terry Lynn, her feet gets real hot. Sometimes my feet will get a little warm, or I'll just feel it in my feet and in my arms. You just feel that energy. It's crazy. Like I said, I was never a believer in dowsing rods up until a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it was until they ended up in my hands. Well, actually, they ended up in Terry Lynn's hands first. And then because she's my wife and I trust her and she doesn't lie to me in that sense, when she got to use them, I asked her like behind the scenes later. I was like, "So was that real? Were the rods moving or did you move them?" And she was like, "No." She's like, "They're freaking real." She's like, "Josh, oh my God." And then we went home and ordered a couple pairs of dowsing rods, and then then they just really connected with me, and I'm a big fan.
Well, now the bigger question is, Josh, in what sense does Terry Lynn lie to you?
Right. Well, look, as a couple, you know how it is, white lies, right?
Okay. Well, you just said
I'm not really gaining too much weight, am I?
You just said in that sense. I was just curious what sense she might.
Yes, so she definitely but when you're a couple, there's those questions you have to ask, and you're going to be truthful. So with her, it was so truthful for that, and like I said, for me, it was such a massive change for me when it comes to dowsing rods. Like I said, with dowsing rods, and that's why I said with Terry Lynn, her feet will burn, hers will get hot. It affects people differently in that sense. And I think even at times, I think she even has to take off her shoes. It gets so hot for her. So it's pretty crazy, like I said, but we've become a big fan of them as far as different tools. And there's obviously other tools that I'm not a big fan of, but dowsing rods, I love it. Ben says thoughts on psychometry.
For me, or Danny, she's in the chat. She's like, she was teaching a course on it. That's one course that I don't have, is psychometry.
You should add that.
But the thing of it is I haven't found an actual practical application for it. Because it's been more of an invasion. The only thing that has actually done anything in a good way is it's how I started dating my wife.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, I had a crystal ball and I gave it to her to hold on for a little bit, and then I did a reading from the crystal ball.
Oh.
And it was a good thing back then, but how to get it in real life, what do you do with psychometry? I haven't found one. Danny, I don't know how she taught the course, but clearly she hit it out of the park.
She did.
It was good.
Yeah. But guys, we're going to wrap it up. And I want to thank everybody in the chat. You guys have been amazing tonight. Thank you guys so much for your interaction, your questions. Again, I hope to see you guys. And of course, thank you again to Rob and Sarah. You guys are welcome back anytime. Stacy, good job tonight. Guys, remember, we do this every Thursday night, 9 p.m. And don't forget, seek the truth.
Peace.
Bye.